everybody to the February 26th meeting, March 11th meeting. We'll get started with the pledge by Councilman Blake.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can see, there's one here, and there's a couple right back there.
Councilman Blaisdell. Councilwoman Kerr. Present. Councilman Froelich.
Present.
Councilman Isaacson.
Present.
Supervisor Zalavic.
Present.
Town Attorney Present.
Motion to accept the February 22nd, 26th town board meetings as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalavic.
Yes. A letter from the town clerk's office regarding the Helping the Community program. 11. That's okay. To the town board, we here at the town clerk's office would like to start a Helping the Community program where each month we collect donations to help local organizations. We're looking to start this program in April with helping our veterans. Any input on local organizations in need of donations is always appreciated. We will always be accepting donations for all the organizations we plan to help. We're looking to help the veterans, the Gateway House of Peace, local schools with a summer lunch program or back to school supplies, gently used clothes and sporting equipment for the schools, food pantries in the fall, maybe perhaps a mitten tree, we could adopt a family, after the fire, and the battered women's shelter, and anything else that that comes across us. Thank you very much, Brenda Howe and Amanda Zawada. I don't think we need any action on that. We just want to let people know that it's going to be available. Brenda will put up a monthly charity in a box out front if you're coming to the meeting, or if you happen to be driving by and you want to stop in. We'd be more than happy to have you put something in there. I need a motion to approve Mary Pacifica. I think being Polish, I get this. As the director of the summer camp, and Nick Mayer as our health director of the summer camp as per the rates specified in the 2020 budget. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalavic.
Yes. Next is a motion to approve the leasing of a new postage machine.
I'll make the motion.
Which one are we going?
What's that?
I gotta wait till copy.
Yes. You want to give us a little presentation there, Brenda, on the lots of it?
Well, the machine we have now, we are renting at $200 a month. It's got some issues. It's 5-6 years old. So Darlene, before she retired, or before she left, we had worked on talking to different vendors, and I got 3 proposals. One from Pitney Bowes, which is where we are now. One from Repeat Business, or Ed & Ed, it's the same company, and the other one from National. Pitney Bowes is $159 a month. Repeat Business, I think, is $143, and then National is $130. They all offer monthly, as part of the lease, they will maintain it, they'll come in and they'll fix it. We have to buy the supplies, the postage stamps, and but we definitely need to do something about our postage machine. They're all local companies. Repeat Business we already use for all our copiers. National is right out of Malta, and Pitney Bowes, the gentleman, lives in Clifton Park but works out of Albany.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts? We need to pick one.
Well, Brenda had a recommendation.
well, we used Pitney and Bowes, repeat business for all the other, the copiers, and we've done business with them in the past, and you call them and they're up here the next day, if not that afternoon. They're the middle ground.
I'll make a motion, we go with repeat business.
Any more discussion? Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisors 11.
Yes. Any new business? If you wish.
I just want to bring up that last night I met with some of the residents, the committee that we formed. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anyone to step up that was in favor of the new short-term rental law. So we just proceeded. I did go over a lot of the comments that I had from people. We had quite a discussion. I think things went really well. And after the meeting, we've concluded that local law 2019-3, filed as 2020-1, should be repealed. The reason we came to that conclusion because there were several procedural errors in that vote on December 18th. So in order to repeal a law, I can't just sit up here and make a motion to repeal a law. There's legal implications to it and a legal procedure. I'd like at this time to make a motion to ask our town attorney, Mr. Craig, to draw up the law to repeal this. You actually have to have another law to repeal a law, okay? To repeal it, and I'd like that available at the March 25th meeting in the hands of the board, so everyone has time to review it properly. So with that, I make the motion to have Mr. Craig proceed with the repeal of the law.
And I will second. I have some feedback as well because I was also part of that committee. Additional concerns and issues I have with the law that's on the books today. There appears to be 3 different versions of the law, and there's variances and concerns with what was voted on, what was filed, and what was accessible by the public at the time of the vote. Again, it's a recommendation of the committee to repeal the law in full. The plan would be, and we have the buy-in from the other individuals that were on the committee, that the committee would still continue to meet if this law is still appealed, with the idea that we can then start reviewing the zoning law to determine what can be addressed by zoning law or existing code and law, rather than having a new law on the books. Another concern I have is it does not appear that this new law fully addresses the concerns that were raised by either side. I can't really see where anyone is really pleased with this law. Some folks did say that they were pleased that it passed simply because there's a law. Others obviously are upset the law was passed. So again, the recommendation would be to repeal the existing law in full, which would then allow for another opportunity for the public to speak at a meeting in April, where they could then voice their concerns or any questions that they have before the board would potentially vote to repeal. That's all.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I got a few things. I'm going to bring up. I hope that people will bear with me. I also did a little research over the weekend about short-term rentals, as we should call them. I went to Lake Placid's website. They just adopted their short-term rental law. They also commissioned a study done by Cameron Associates. It was a report on how their law fit in with 10 other towns in New York State. Came back that their law pretty much mirrored the 10 other towns. They also had in this commission study health and safety impacts of short-term rentals. Now, I'm just going to read a quick paragraph from it, and then I'll go farther as to what I looked at. It says most short-term rentals are operated out of residential properties which typically have not been inspected in recent years. In some cases, general building construction in these residential units may have been completed by unlicensed trade professionals, which expose renters or other residents of the neighborhood to unforeseen or unknown hazards. It also goes on to say in 2014, the Attorney General of New York did a study, investigated Airbnbs present in New York City. The subsequent report indicated that 72% of Airbnb listings in New York City violated health and safety laws. Well, then I pulled up Lake Placid's ordinance. Lake Placid's ordinance pretty much mirrors our ordinance, except they go a little farther. So I went and looked at other towns that have ordinances in New York State. The town of Lake George, town of Warrensburg, Watkins Glen, the village, town of Cromwell, different things, and all these laws mirror our law, except some go farther. Some charge, all have inspections, all require inspections, some do them every year, some do them every other year, and some do them every third year. And they're all based on safety, health and safety of Airbnb operators. And quite frankly, I didn't necessarily believe the Attorney General's 72% reading. So I went online and I pulled up 12 Airbnbs in our town. And I looked at them. And out of 12 Airbnbs in our town, there appear to be 5 that have illegal basements. Which means they don't have egresses out of these basements, which makes it unsafe to sleep people in the bottom, in the basement. This whole law was not intended to put anybody out of business. What it was intended to do, and what we as elected officials are here to do, is to keep our town residents safe and keep visitors to our town safe. And by doing this law, which is right in line with everybody else in New York State, I feel that we are doing it. Now, to vote to repeal this law, if we do that, I believe we're putting ourselves in an immense liability position. And the reason I say that is because we already have the law on the books. Taking it off the books, and God forbid, if anything should happen to one of these residents, the lawyers are going to come back and they are going to say, you had the law to protect the person that got injured. You took it off. By taking it off, I don't think we'll have enough insurance to pay the judgments, to be honest with you. I think this law has been more than helpful and more than generous with short-term rentals. I understand people are upset. Sorry to say, Ryan, that any law we pass, there's going to be people on both sides that don't like it. They all towns, they require information, they require site plans, they require all the safety stuff, they require exit plans. They set the number, some towns set the number of occupants in the house, but most set them by New York State housing codes, which tells you in each bedroom you have to have 70 square feet for the first person and 50 square feet for each person that stays in that bedroom upon that. That's all we were looking to do, was have a reasonable law that would help people, both neighbors and people renting, and we are not looking to put people out of business. That reason.
Mr. Polish has the floor, and I would appreciate it if he's allowed to speak.
To be honest with you, I sit here and I calmly listen to all you people talk about this law. And I expect that I would get the same thing. We don't have to agree on this law. But also, I took an oath 45 years ago to protect life and safety in this town, and I take that very seriously. So I would not be in favor of setting in motion to repeal this law.
Can I ask a question?
I think this law should run for a year, and then if we could revisit it and see if there needs to be changes made.
May I ask a question? I haven't seen the Lake Placid or the Lake George.
I had it all set.
No, I haven't.
Brenda's gonna print it all off
Okay,
for
I
you
have a
tomorrow.
question for you. Does Lake Placid and Lake George have owner occupancy clauses in it?
Yes. Let me, if you give me a minute, I'll pull up Lake George.
Like, I mean, how long, how many days you can rent a year?
Some do, some don't.
I believe Lake Placid has a 270 to 275 days.
No, I think it was less than that.
Was it last, the last I looked, it was 275 days.
They can rent it?
No, that they had to stay in the home.
To be honest with you, I found,
No.
we had which? I found that some restricted to being able to rent only 90 days a year. Also, when I went on site, and I'll tell you where I got all my information, there's a website called AirDNA, which analyzes all your Airbnbs. They do it from 3 different sites. They do it from Airbnb, HomeAway, and Vacation Rentals. They tell you exactly in 2018, and I called them because there again, I didn't really believe their figures, but any given Airbnb in 2018, they tracked how many times it was available, the percentage it was rented, and the amount of money that was made off. They do all this stuff for us. So I called them, I says, is this something you guys are just putting together as estimates? Or she says, no, we track it every day, and we look at it, and we think it's accurate to within 5%. So that's where most of this information came from. The laws actually came from each individual town. If you give me a minute, Barb, without getting...
No, my concern is, I think with Lake Placid, and I've read a lot of articles on Lake Placid, and I gave you some of those articles, their biggest concern is people buying the homes up and renting them out as Airbnb, and what
Correct.
it's doing to
That was one
their tax
concern.
base and their school base, and the people, service people that work at Lake Placid have to ride a bus for over an hour to get an affordable place to live. So we're kind of in a different situation here. We're not.
Well, but they also looked at all the other things.
We're looking at, what, 6-8 weeks, not, different situation. I have another question.
Yes.
Illegal basements, is that covered under our zoning?
It is, but if you don't
Why
know,
are we enforcing it?
if we don't know about it, how do we enforce it?
You know about it right now.
Well, that's only because it's public record. Actually, we could enforce it right now, but is that what we want to do?
I think it's the duty of our enforcement officer to do
So,
that.
starting tomorrow, he should go and cite all these people for illegal basement.
What people?
I don't,
With a warrant?
I said I took,
hold on, please.
I took 12 houses.
You'll have your chance at public comment. We are not
Yeah,
gonna have a
people-
give and take, hang on, Laura, Ms. Carr, hang on. We are not gonna have what we had 2 weeks ago. You've signed up to talk, when it's your 3 minutes, we will call your name, then and only then are you gonna get out of hand. If it happens, I'll make a motion to adjourn and we'll be out of here before the lights are out.
And I will
And I'm not kidding.
And I will second it for you.
Just to-
We can't let it go to what it was.
Just to give you an idea, over in your neighborhood, there are 30, in excess of 30 short-term rentals. And that came from AirDNA. I took 12 out of 30. I was trying to be, I didn't look at names, I didn't look at anything else, I looked at what was online. I purposely am not going to bring up names here tonight because I don't want to embarrass anybody, to be honest with you. But I will put forth what I believe to be I knew I had it here in all this mess.
Let me interrupt this for a second, John. I do not want, just to be clear, I am not gonna go down tomorrow morning to the building inspector's office and say, start looking for people who have basements that are out of code. I'm not gonna use the word illegal, but basements that do not meet code. On the other hand, if someone in this town, if a neighbor says, I believe my neighbor has an illegal basement, by law, we have a legal obligation to go and check that out. So we're not targeting anyone. I'm not having Billy and his guys sit downstairs tomorrow on AirDNA or Airbnb and see that someone says they have a house with 4 bedrooms but it sleeps 12. That math doesn't work in a 4-bedroom house.
The other thing I found in my research, the town of Beacon actually enforced a law in their zoning ordinance that says any land use that is not in our zoning ordinance is deemed illegal. So as it stands right now, because we have that same thing in our zoning ordinance, you would have all your Airbnbs illegal until we change the zoning. I don't want to do that. Again, I don't want to put these people out of business, but I do want it to be handled in a safe manner. And that's all I've ever asked for. And that's all I have to say. But I can find that, like George, I got a lot of papers I'm shuffling through.
I have one question, maybe comment. So one of the concerns was opening the town up for liability if we were to repeal the law.
Correct.
So if it's already a violation of the zoning code to have a basement
We are
that's
open
not in
for the same
compliance,
line.
we're already open for liability, is that
Correct.
correct? So I don't feel that this opens us up for additional liability by repealing the law.
So then are we gonna set a committee together as fast as we can to put together a zoning law that would cover this?
That's what we came to the conclusion last
No,
night.
you
The
can-
gentlemen we met with were very willing to sit down and over the next year and look at where we
So
can
for
cover
a year,
this
we're gonna
problem.
say all these short-term rentals are in violation. That'll be all of them. Are okay to run.
I've got to see the zoning.
I can show it right here.
But
That I have.
that's how I would like to see this addressed, because I think, like I said, this is not like I said last night, it's not a win-win for anyone. It's trying to bring the neighbors together and do what's best.
Oh, use permit prohibited. Any use which is not listed as a permitted use, special permit use, or permitted accessory use in Article 5, Section 180-11 of our zoning code, schedule of use regulations, or Article 15, 180-87 of our code, district schedules of land use requirements of this chapter shall be considered a prohibited use hereunder. And that's right out of our zoning.
I need a copy of it later.
Well, I was gonna make you copies of all this, because I didn't think your committee was gonna act this fast. So I wanted to put together everything so you could have it to review.
I think we're kind of in the same boat, because we didn't think the law was going to pass that quickly either. Just
Well, the law actually was worked on for almost a year.
3 hours.
I'd like to pull the board and move on here.
Councilman Blaisdell.
I'd like to protect the town and its people, and and whatever we can do to, whatever. Microphone, please. You know, I want to see the people of the town and the people of the board safe. And if that's what it takes to keep it safe, is to keep it now and come up with a different law later, that would be my preference. So I would say no at this time.
Councilwoman Carr.
I don't know what I'm voting on. If I made the motion to repeal the law, yes.
Councilman Froelich.
I'm going to vote no.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zlotnick.
I think once the state or the county figures out a way to get their hands into our pockets, this is going to come down, and we're not going to have any choice in it. But I'm going to vote yes, so that Ms. Kerr and a couple individuals can work on getting this figured out. I fully expect that eventually we're gonna have something that we can live with. So my vote is yes.
And just to give everybody an idea, there are actually 29 counties right now that tax Airbnbs in New York State, so unfortunately, people, that's coming for you. And I don't think that's a fair thing to do.
I'm going to, at this time, I'm going to make a, since they passed, I'm going to make the second motion to set a public hearing on April 8th and vote to follow.
Okay,
Can I do that? No.
no, you can't.
Okay.
So the local law has to be on your desks 10 days before the next meeting. And at that next meeting, you can then set a public hearing for the following.
I know that. Well, thank you, Jim. But then we'll, as soon as I have the local law in front of us, we'll set the public hearing.
Any other new business? Town clerk, would you be so kind as to grab me that list so we can have all the Ms. Town Clerk, however you'd like to be. Okay, once again, just to go over it, you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. We will start with Carrie Jackson. Well, before you get started, there's quite a few people who want to speak. If someone has already stated some facts or opinions that you are also following, rather than hear the same comment several times, if you'd be kind enough to just pass your time, that would be nice.
Yep. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Carrie Jackson, MacArthur Drive. A couple of things. We did have a lot of things planned to say tonight, so thank you for continuing on with the committee and continuing to look at this on behalf of the constituents that you serve. I do want to do my typical poll of the gallery, if I may. If you are in support of the short-term rental law, please raise your hand. If you are opposed to the short-term rental law, please raise your hand. Thank you. So I believe we are going to hold our comments until the April meeting. We did want to talk about the safety issues, some lack of transparency, the town noise ordinance, and a couple of other things in relation to this law particularly. But they were brought to light via this law, and now it is apparent to some of us in the town that the lack of transparency, safety issues, and other things are widespread across some other areas in our town. And we are going to continue to ask that you make sure that you are serving your constituents in a transparent and honest and ethical way. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Forze, am I getting that right?
I'm going to pass.
Okay, thank you. Dan Woes.
Hi folks, my name is Dan Wass, 2 Milton Heights Boulevard. I did a little research too. Nashville and Austin, Texas, and Florida and a couple other states squashed the law because it's a violation of personal property rights. We did not sign on to a homeowners association when we bought our homes in Milton. I don't remember any of you folks helping me pay my mortgage payments or my taxes or anything like that. I don't know where the arrogance comes from that you think you can control our properties. I want to talk about the mandatory inspections for a minute. Obviously, the attorneys were involved because you put in the additional insured clause. We understand. Everybody understands what additional insured means. It means you want us to put you on our personal homeowner's insurance. There's a reason you want to do that. Because you know that you want to control the properties, but you don't want the liability. Can I remind you of J Street in Schenectady. The sprinkler system was inspected by the fire marshal. The head of the town code department signed off on it. Sprinkler system failed. People died in a fire. Lawsuits everywhere. And the head of the town code enforcement killed himself because he was going to go to prison. Folks, we don't want to repeat history. Fines. You have fines in your law, up to $1,000 plus daily penalties. Now this stuff can add up, and this is where this should concern everyone. What happens when we say we don't want to pay those silly fines? Where do those fines go? They get attached to the tax bill. What happens if we decide not to pay that portion of our tax bill? The town of Milton puts a lien on your property.
1 minute, sir.
The law was obviously put together very carefully. We see that there was a lot of effort into it, but it's garbage because it violates the private property rights of people. If this law is not fully repealed, there will be a multi-pronged offensive, including national media, to expose this along with all the other Milton scandals, and a relentless level of litigation, the likes of which I'm sure none of you have seen in this town. We will not tolerate this. So however you folks have to vote amongst yourselves, make sure that this thing gets repealed. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Heather Curto. Jim Singer? June Singer? Jenna, I'm sorry.
Pass.
Okay. Scott Jackson.
Scott Jackson, 924 MacArthur Drive. I just want to say thank you. I was a part of the committee that did meet yesterday. So I've given my word that I would continue to meet. My time is for the town to continue to meet, and hopefully we can come to an agreement and get through this. So I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate the effort, and I think doing this, once we repeal it, and it gets repealed, it should be done correctly. I believe it was done incorrectly, and it should be done correctly. That's all. Thank you.
Kim Amodio.
I'm not personally speaking, but I was provided with a letter from Andrea Green. Several business owners came to me about this concern. So I'd just like to read the letter.
We have Ms. Green's letter. It's been passed out to the board.
Okay, well, she asked that I read it, so that's what I'm doing. Dear sirs and madam, although I'm unable to attend the March 11th town board meeting, I recently obtained a letter, copy of the local law, number 3, 2019, for short-term rentals, and I would like to offer my opinion on this matter. I live in Saratoga Springs, but have had 10 years of experience in short-term home sharing, and I've been a business owner in good standing in the town of Milton for 24 years. My husband and I rented our home each August for 10 years. During those years, we spent a lot of time, and almost all of our money we made improving our home. The rental market in this area is very competitive, and only those homes which are well cared for with upgrades and special amenities are given consideration by a discerning renter. First and foremost, for people who rent seasonally, is the fact that this is their home. When their short-term guests leave, they will move their families back in, usually on the same day. Their homes are their greatest investments, and they rely on this space to provide a clean, safe environment, not only for the guests, but for their own families. They don't need a local government looking over their shoulders to make sure that they do the right thing. In my experience, homeowners who spend their time, effort, resources on short-term rentals often take better care of their homes than others. They know that their homes are being inspected and judged on a regular basis in this competitive business. I think that you will find if you canvass these homeowners that they sometimes decline offers because the prospective renter lacks the credentials and references that will help ensure a safe and pleasant experience for all. They are not willing to take a chance on a questionable circumstances for a quick buck. As a business owner in the town of Milton, I can attest to the fact that summer business is a huge boon to our economy. Having grown up here and run my business since 1996, I recognize that the summer guests, when they shop at my store, and I'm always grateful for the large increased traffic and income that they bring.
1 minute, ma'am.
We went through the commercial business process in the town of Milton, and we know that an important goal is to grow and improve the area. Sidewalks, lighting, shrubbery are important, but if we push people out and discourage visitors, that will not help us meet our goal of a more vibrant, inviting town. Please reconsider local law number 3. The long-term goals for the town of Milton will not be served by this unjust and burdensome requirement. Thank you, Andrea Green. And thank you for doing the right thing. Here's also several other business owners and 28 more people who are against this law.
Thank you. Scott Singer.
Pass.
Bridget Herbst.
Bridget Herbst, 586 Ackland Boulevard. As Ms. Jackson said, I won't read everything I planned on saying because I do appreciate the fact that the board is willing to look at this. There were some issues brought up at the last meeting that I would like to bring attention to. First is a letter that I had mentioned to the board was left in my mailbox. No one seemed to remember this letter being left in my mailbox or the ensuing meeting that happened, so I did find a picture I have of the letter. As you can see, it was addressed to my husband and I. It is on Town of Milton letterhead and signed by Mr. Froelich, so I just have copies I'd like to put on the record.
Thank you.
In addition to that, I would just like to draw attention to the fact that when this law was originally brought up, we were told that this was based on complaints of neighbors of people who do home sharing. I did put in a Freedom of Information request for the complaints because although I requested them twice, I was never supplied those complaints. I was supplied by the town clerk with 3 complaints, one from 2015, one from 2016, and one from 2018. I'll spare you the details except to know that the one in 2015 was about someone not getting a building permit. The one in 2016 was in January and was about an unregistered car in someone's driveway. And the third one was a noise complaint that was called in at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon from someone's backyard. So those are some of the complaints that we received from the town. The second FOIL request I put in was for any information about the insurance carrier that provides the insurance for the town and
1 minute,
requesting
ma'am.
any information about extra insurance liability. And I was told that there was no communication with the insurance carrier. So thank you very much. I appreciate you considering this repeal. I have lots of other information, so if the committee needs anything, I'd be happy to provide that. Thank you.
Tom Bogosian.
Sure you want me to pass, but I won't. Good evening. I realize I only have 180 seconds to speak, so I'll make it quick. I really appreciate the discussion about abiding by the law. I appreciate transparency, honesty, and ethical government. And what we have talked about for 20-plus years is this board abiding by state law. So I'm going to hand out this. I'm just going to read it quickly. It's a letter from our council to you, Supervisor Zlotnick, and it reads as follows. I represent Milton Center Plaza, LLC, Hilo, LLC. I'm losing my voice today. Tom and Bruce Bogosian, owners of real property in town that is subject to the rate structure of Heritage Springs Sewer Works, Inc. On behalf of our clients and the general public, we are grateful that the town has begun the process of discharging its statutory duty to regulate and review the rate structure by Heritage, as per Transportation Corporation Law, Section 121.
The town, and the town alone, has the legal obligation to regulate the heritage rates to make sure they are reasonable and fair to the public. As a rate-making public body, we ask that you promptly announce and inform Heritage and the public the process by which the hearing will be held at 7:10 p.m. on April 22nd, 2020. You have a sound template for this, and there's been discussion about how are we going to do that, and I was really dismayed looking at the agenda that the most important thing, this $7 million business, is getting a new postage meter. There's a lot of things on your agenda, not the least of which is your upcoming rate hearing, and I would have thought there would have been more about that. The last rate hearing was held on September 19th, 2012. A transcript of this hearing is attached. State law requires it that be held every 5 years. 2012 is 8 years ago. First, as in the past, we ask that you publish a legal notice informing the public that a sewer rate...
1 minute, sir.
I'm sorry?
1 minute.
1 minute. Will be held and that all interested parties are invited to attend and be heard by order of the board. Next, as in the past, Heritage should be informed and invited to make a presentation in support of their current connection rate and sewer rates in order to justify them under the law. As rate makers, the town board should be free to ask questions of Heritage as to the basis upon which they are charging connection and annual fees. Next, ratepayers must be heard as to the reasonableness and fairness of the Heritage rates. In order to provide a sound record of the proceedings, as in the past, a stenographer should be present so a transcript can be
30 seconds,
produced.
Tom.
Thank you. 30 years this abomination has been visited upon the town. If you want this town to grow, you're going to get rid of the sewer company, but that's done after you hear the evidence. And that evidence will be presented on April 22nd. I will hand one to you, John. If you pass one down, I have one from Mr. Craig in there, but I'm sorry, Brenda, I didn't have enough for you. But if one of them would give it to you, you will have one for the record. I am sorry. Thank you for your time. The rate hearing is coming. You've heard us be here for almost 20 years talking about this. This was formed in 1987. All these people out here pay 2 times for sewer. They don't understand it, but you come
Your
April
time is up, sir.
22nd
Thank you.
and you will hear about it. Have a pleasant night. Thank you very much.
Patrick Crowley.
Hey, good evening, Patrick Crowley, 942 MacArthur. Not as prepared as everyone else, but I think everyone else, what I was going to say, I think they covered it. I'll start off by saying thank you, agree wholeheartedly. Just a couple of points. When I think about this, I think with the law, my understanding it started with a couple of complaints. That's speaking with some people on the board. So I think if there's ever a push to go forward again, I would love there to be the type of analysis that was done. You know what? Show us the complaints. Show us the complaints per rental night. And I bet what you're going to find is that people who don't rent might be causing noise issues and things like that, even more than the Airbnb. I don't know, because it doesn't look like anyone is looking at the numbers. You know, statistics will tell us if we have a problem and if we need a law. My opinion is we have a law and we might look for a problem. You say, well, other towns are doing it. I'm very familiar with Lake Placid, and I agree wholeheartedly. The biggest problem they had was commercial enterprises were coming in and buying everything up. So if it's a safety thing, 80%, 90% of this has nothing to do with safety. It has to do with noise, quiet at 10 o'clock. I don't know what that means. My kids sometimes play outside. So I just think we need to make sure that we're solving a problem. Then I just have to point out from this meeting, what I found very concerning was the comments about, I went online and looked up people that had basements. If there's a zoning issue, it is not an Airbnb issue. It's a town of Milton. So does that mean now I'm going to go look at your house and your house and your house? Like, it made my skin crawl, to be honest. And I'm not a very political person. So again, I thank you guys for changing it. I think if there is an issue, one last thing. When we're talking about if something's not specifically called out in a zoning law, then it's illegal, right? my kid's 12th birthday, I had this big inflatable thing. That's not in there. Was I breaking the law? Like, are we getting, if something's not specifically called out, it's automatically illegal?
1 minute, sir.
I think we need to, it just seems that there is a bias against it, and I understand I have a horse in the race, so I know I am biased, but I don't expect, this sounded like there was really an agenda. It was based on a ridiculously low number of complaints. I'd love to know Lake Placid, how many complaints they got. You know, what type of an issue it is. Right here, it does not seem that we have a problem. And the last thing is, I'll say, is I moved to this area 10 years ago. People were renting homes decades before I did. Personally, I think it's almost quasi like a right to farm law. People were doing this well in advance. I'm not aware of any major issues that came up. Not to say that you never look at it, but I don't think we need to look for problems where the statistics say there are none.
Time, sir. Thank you. Bruce Bogosian.
Cousin, right?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would just like to reiterate what my brother Tom said. I think it's the utmost important that we get this rate hearing correct. We're talking about the residents of the town here, and we need to do the right thing. Tom's right, it's been going on for 30 years. What it means to these folks is that the sewer company will extract this year upwards of $400,000 from the residents for a service that they already paid for to Saratoga County. So we need to get it right. We need to look at it. If you would please invest the time and place the level of interest such as you placed in this short-term rental law, it would be appreciated. And as I said in the last meeting, the people in this town deserve to have the best representation. And it also will allow this town to grow and move forward. This has been a big obstacle to growth in this town, and the growth in this town is what's going to help with the tax base, and we need to get that done. So I appreciate that we're going to be doing the public hearing, and I would encourage folks to turn out because you're going to learn a lot that night. And secondly, how would you have someone get in touch with this community fund that you're talking about? I'm on the board of the Salvation Army in Saratoga Springs, and I'd like to have leadership contact.
Give Brenda College. She's running through her office.
We do
Contact Brenda.
a summer feeding program in Galway is one of our things, so they could contact you and then fill you in on all that. But please, I would really appreciate you guys doing the right job on the 22nd and getting it done. Thank you.
Nancy Phillips. Mike Iacuzzi. Watch your head. I've never had that problem, but watch your head.
Thank you. Mike Iacuzzi, 9 Russell Street. Just a couple of quick comments with respect to the short-term rental. I do not have any direct stake in that rule and law. However, as a resident of the town, I think it's very important that you folks figure out the liability side of this. So, as someone who sometimes rents homes from others, I think pretty much across the board, in addition to whatever the nightly rate is, there are fees and or taxes. I'm not sure what those go to, but I know that I usually pay them whenever I rent a home. So from my perspective as a resident of the town, I don't want to see the town ending up being exposed to liability because of something the town has chosen to do with a law. So with Mr. Craig's help or whoever, I certainly hope that you'll come to a clear consensus on which path produces the least risk of liability exposure. I want to commend Councilwoman Kerr and others, Mr. Isaacson, for listening to the community. I think it's entirely appropriate and very important that you do that. I also think it's very appropriate to look at research to see what other localities do, to see whether there's some sort of approach that does make sense, given the needs of our community and the responsibility that you have on behalf of the town. So thank you for taking the time. I guess a question, and I know this is not a back and forth, so if you could address it sometime, I would appreciate it. The motion that was discussed and carried, as I heard it, basically is saying Mr. Craig will come back with a new law. So at this point, my conclusion is nothing has changed tonight. And I just want to try and make sure that I'm clear on the status of where we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you explain that better than I?
Sure. So the law as it stands stays on the books. My new law that I'll be drawing up, that they've directed me to draw up, will be basically 2 sentences. And it's going to say the town has hereby repeals local law number 3 of 2019 and reference whatever the state references it as. It's a very simple law. Very easy to read.
I'm going to mess up this first name here, so I'm just going to go with Mr. or Ms. Curry from 687 Stark Terrace.
I'll pass it tonight.
Okay. Renee Mertens.
My name is Renee Mertens. I live at 2047 Dewar Road. I have property there. I've lived here for over 25, actually 30 years now, I think about it. I've watched a lot of things happen in this town over the years. I have not been thrilled with, I've been embarrassed. It's a small town. I don't know why it gets so much attention. What I am most displeased about is the non-transparency and then reading about it in the Times Union newspaper. I think what I'm seeing here tonight is good. People need to be talking. I lived in a very nice neighborhood right off of Rollins Street for 11 years, and then I moved and built again in this town in another zoning district. Having said all of that, I think that we are concerned, at least I am, that a lot of other towns in the town of in the county of Saratoga is watching what's happening here tonight. I don't want to see this be like the foothills to the mountain and have this roll out all over the place. I think this needs to be looked at. I think that people need to be heard. I lived in a very nice neighborhood off of Rollins Street. I also know people that rented their homes during track season. They always improved their homes. They were good homeowners. And I lived across the street from one of those people that rented. Never had a problem because they screened them very, very well. I'm not biased one way or another. I never rented my home out. But I watched my neighbors, and they were very ethical. I think that there are zoning problems with basements and whatnot. That's something for the town to handle, and they shouldn't be passing it off as an excuse. So having said that, I hope that the town will take a very good look at it. I am opposed. I am for the repeal. And I just would like to be known on record that I was here for the people of the town of Milton.
Thank you. Scott Hirozumi. Just when you get up here, you can tell me what it is.
Hi, I'm Scott Hirozumi. I actually live on Walter Drive, so it's slightly outside of the town of Milton. I am an investor in the community. I'm investing in Boston Spa, and I'm very concerned with this particular topic because I'm actually also live in Honolulu, Hawaii. I split my time between the two. I have seen what this short-term repeal, really intelligent thinking forward. I cannot afford a home in Hawaii anymore. I moved my family back here to live. And one of the things that as an entrepreneur, I want to maximize the potential profit of anything that I own. I'm looking at mortgage rates. I'm a former mortgage officer. The rates are low, the property values are very high. People are trying to live and make things. They're not trying to get by on anything. They want to work. I just urge this council to work with these folks. Listen to them. We made a mistake in Hawaii. I've seen homes go under, and big corporations come in and build up. Then we had nothing. Where my generations, I can't live there anymore. I don't want to see it in my backyard here. I urge you all to look at this, because the sewers, when big business comes in, they do one small hookup fee. We do 100 of them. They have 100 homes in one small hookup fee. These are the types of things that happen because a town gets desperate and runs out of money, like Honolulu. They get big business to come in. They cut rates to them. They tax our system, our water, our sewer, everything. Next thing you know, our generations are moving away. I love this area. I just ask that this board looks at it from the eyes of the way we love this area and not just kickstart from fear. I can't go home anymore because that's how it started there. Thank you very much.
Sir, for the record, can you give us your address?
Walter Drive, sir.
What city?
Right over here in Saratoga.
Okay, thank you. Gina Morosi.
I'll pass right now, thank you.
Frank Rossi.
Hi, Board. Good to see all of you. Jim, you got your hands full up here because technically, all this talk about liability at the end of the day, what John stated, and you know as well as I do, now the board is on record notice that if the law does prohibit the use for short-term rentals, and it's happening, the liability is actually bigger right now in the town in the current state things are in. And so I would say to you, you've got a bigger problem than just in inspection laws, basically in your hands right now, and you're going to have to take a deep look at that one. Liability could be even bigger in the current state or even with the repeal. The law itself may not even matter at this point, as you know. At the end of the day, one of the ringleaders that was here last time, I got to watch the meeting on video, who's from another township, always talks about the law must be enacted and executed equally across everybody. So, make sure I got the camera right there. Keith, you're absolutely right, it should be. And in these types of situations...
Mr. Rossi, I'm going to ask you to address your comments to the board.
Absolutely.
This is not a venue for personal vendettas or comments or whatever you'd like to make.
I apologize. So, Mr. Supervisor, I would like to, if you ever talk to Keith, tell him he's right. So, at the end of the day, we need to get out of our own small radius sometimes and see what things are like in other areas. I recently stayed in Broward County, Florida. I had to put together a tournament for flag football where I referee, and we had a referee house down there. And one of the things that made me feel good when I walked in the place was on the kitchen divider stood a certificate of compliance.
1 minute, sir.
Stating that everything was in compliance, inspected, whatever money they have to pay existed. The gentleman over here had stated earlier that the state of Florida doesn't have such things. Well, I'm looking at the vacation rental program in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on fortlauderdale.gov. It exists. And the fees are pretty outlandish when you think about it, but those are fees for Fort Lauderdale. Keep that in mind. It's good to know when you're renting these places that they have been inspected, because I had no prior ability to get into the place to see it, unlike an apartment, for instance. Apartments, you don't sign the lease until you inspect it yourself. If you do, you're a fool, to be honest with you. But you can also call to the building inspector's attention something that may be deficient at that point in time. And those are the things that you have to weigh when you look at things like this. I was disappointed with the Jerry Springer episode that we had here 2 weeks ago, and it really made me have to take a step back and think myself about the law. And I got to be honest with you, you lost a supporter 2 weeks ago. If you're a short-term person in this area that was fighting so hard, you made me want to ask, where's the dead bodies being hidden, because of just how loud and vocal it got in here. It's not the way to handle it. I think we can do better here in the town of Milton. Let's look at things very, very carefully and look at the communities around us and even abroad.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to go with an address here. 607 Ackland Boulevard.
Pass.
Thank you very much. That will close public comment for this evening. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue. When we come back out, there will be one other action taken. It will be to discuss the hiring of an individual. No other business will take place at that time. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Please.
All right, Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Thank you.
You want those motions separately?
Yeah, you got it.
I'll make the motion to retire.
So we gotta come back.
I'll make the motion to come back to the session.
Okay.
Now I can make a motion, right?
Yeah,
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Next, we need a motion to tender an offer to Charles Duffy to be the new controller for the town of Milton.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Nothing further to do. I'd like to speak to him first before we tender him.
That's right, never mind.
Okay. Just in case he got a better offer someplace, you know. So we need a motion to adjourn. Did you? Yeah. Okay. Second? Thank you, Ryan.
Any discussion? Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you all on March 25th. Thank you.